Now, Elizabeth,
Yes.
some people in the world will agree with this. Some people won't. I want your take on it. Do you think that, or should you expect someone to accept 100% of you as you are?
Fuck no.
No?
Absolutely
No.
No, and it's just because, like, yes and no, really.
Right.
But mostly that I
Mostly.
think that everyone has room for growth, and I hate those people who are like, this is me, if you can't handle me at my worst. Like,
Yep.
none of that. No. Not everybody's perfect. And if you think you're perfect, you're wrong.
Yes.
And so if you expect someone to take all of you without any room for growth.
No
that's-
compromise, no,
absolutely
no
not.
leave this baby behind.
I think that you can expect someone to take all of you as long as you're not crossing a hard boundary for them. Do you
Yeah,
know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah.
Like if they've set a boundary and you're like, well, that's just me, then maybe you two aren't compatible. But I think as long as the person is saying, I want you to take all of me, but I'm also open to growth, then maybe that's something,
Yeah.
you know, like I want someone to call me on my bullshit because sometimes I am an asshole. Sometimes I am.
Yes.
Absolutely. The producer Zane is just like side-eyeing me something fierce right now. And it's look, it's handy that we're talking about someone calling me on my bullshit because Zane's going to be on mic today.
Yes, we've had to go. We've had to go upstairs to our overlord. Hello, Zane. Come on down.
Dare I share my opinions
Sure.
so early in the episode?
Please, always.
I think you should. Like someone should accept you as you are, and that includes like your potential for growth. So like if someone
Okay,
says,
yep, that's
I'm not willing to try and grow past this point. And like you said, if that's a hard boundary, then that is the end of the relationship.
Yes,
and so that's
agreed.
So like
I
if it
think
isn't
we're-
the end of the relationship, they are accepting you and therefore they're accepting you as you are.
Yeah, I think we're at the same purpose, but just different ways of getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't
just
think
wanted
you
to be a
should
little bit
tell
more specific.
anyone to put up with all of your behaviour.
No.
But at the same time, they should not try to change you if it's a hard boundary of yours or you know.
Yes, but
It's
if you're
compromise, man.
if you're saying I'm perfect and so after 230,000 years of human development and evolution, you're the pinnacle, are you?
Yeah.
You're faultless, without flaw.
Yeah.
Nothing, and you won't change or
Like
adapt
accept
behaviors.
me with my flaws and understand that I am open to change, and I hope that you are too. I guess.
And that's the thing. I think the willingness to change and grow is a hard boundary for all of us.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the case for everyone.
No, that's true.
And it's also not necessarily the case that everyone wants someone to grow and change. Some people do just want to be that idea of what they already have in their head, and they're happy with that, and they're going to grow with that. And that may not be healthy from our perspective, but that may be what they want.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
very
it is a personal thing, and I think that like it is enough to say, this is who I am, and these are where my boundaries are. And if you don't fit inside that, then
Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
There we go. we did it. Hello one and hello all to Ghosts of Boyfriends Past. Zane C. Weber joins us on the mic for good reason.
Yes.
Because normally, in a normal time, we have a guest on the show. They talk through
We
us.
still do have a guest.
Hold your eager horses, Elizabeth. I can't get it out. A guest will talk, bring a story from dating, love, romance gone by. Generally, they're pretty. I suppose negative. Generally,
we like the drama.
Generally, we accept a bit more of the drama, the dramatic. Every now and then, there's a funny one. But Elizabeth, my lovely co-host, hello, is in the hot
Hi.
seat today. She's dragged herself in here and put her little hand up.
I know.
Because you've been doing some dating.
I have
Is that
been.
the prompt?
Yeah. Look, honestly, in the last probably, I don't know, 10 months or so, I've been doing some dating. And I undenied about whether I wanted to bring this story for quite some time, but I decided it was actually a good example of where I was very comfortable with my communication.
Great.
And it's also kind of funny.
Good. So
Do you want to read me the rules?
I think we'll meander casually.
I just want to
towards it.
prepare you. Are we going for the record today, or
Yeah,
are we
that's-
going?
No,
very
do you
good
know
point.
what?
That's
Okay,
wonderful.
so I've been very careful and tried to make sure that I've come up with a name, a pseudonym that is incredibly different to the name of the person who I'm talking about so that I can't accidentally slip into it. I have told Zane what the name of the person
Great,
is so that if I
well.
say that name, I'm in trouble.
Yep.
We may have to re-record because I actually don't want this name getting out anywhere.
Yes, so that would be one of our first rules. A guest talking about someone else, we ask them to use an alias, a fake name, so that the rule 2, those of you playing along at home who figure out who our guest is and the person and who they're talking about, we don't dox them, we don't release
No, we're not about
information.
that. That's not what this story is about.
And then our third rule is no threats on microphone.
Yes,
Please,
I am
Elizabeth.
happy to stick with that hard boundary.
So I'm curious because before we've been doing this here podcast for coming up between 3 and 4 years now already, and before that you were a relationships columnist. So you have quite the one would say you have quite the hefty sort of bag of experience.
Look,
wrapped
I've had a
around your
lot
shoulders.
of both relationships back to back and a lot of single time experience. I decided a few years ago that I couldn't be asked because I hate apps, and that seemed to be the only way that people were meeting stuff. But I've still been open to meeting people in other ways. So this is not an app thing. I was not on an app. I refuse. I don't refuse because they're all bad. It's just I find them quite triggering for me, and I've not been able to go back to them in a way that I find particularly healthy for me yet.
They are
I might
super
get there.
anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you suffer from, generalized anxiety disorder, it's not great to constantly worry about everything.
The applications do seem to be the biggest hurdle for the person coming back to the dating realm.
And look, I think as we heard from Lucille from Bumble last week, they're getting a lot better at policing the communication in a way that doesn't stifle conversation, but that stops the kind of behaviour that made me feel awful on them. So look, I'm close to wading a toe. Wading a toe? Do you wade a toe? To
Dipping?
wading back in there or dipping a toe. Mixing my metaphors there. But this is not one of those. So the name that we're going with today is Logan.
Logan.
So
Apologies to any nice slogans out there.
yeah, look, honestly, do you know what I did? I googled douchebag guy names and I picked one from the list.
Sorry, all Logans tuning in.
Look, it was either that or like Chad or like Kyle.
So this is not a positive story, is what we're
Look,
saying.
it's positive from the fact that I got everything that I needed to get out.
Yeah.
And look, it's depending on the intentions of Logan.
Right.
And there is debate amongst the couple of people that the very few people that I've told about this story. There's debate, that there's contention as to whether this person is completely awful in their intentions or just a bit messed up right now.
So our readers will get to play a little game of judge, jury, executioner. You decide. It's a kind of a you decide at home,
sort of. I'm going to
approach.
frame it very much that I'm the good guy.
Of
though,
course,
so.
yeah, but you're the prosecution. You're coming in for a conviction. So
Okay.
there we go. We have a guest. We have a premise. And Elizabeth can waste as much time preparing and getting ready to, because it's a
real
hard thing to
nervous,
do.
guys.
It's so hard to
really
do.
nervous.
Every person that comes in here and sits in that chair to tell a story about themselves gets my full wow. What a thing to do.
Where did we start? So you didn't meet on an app. How did you meet?
No, so I actually met this person a few years ago, believe it or not, at a work conference. And it was just one of those things where I saw them and I went, hey, that guy's kind of hot. And I said that to a friend of mine, a colleague at the time. I said, hey, that guy's kind of cute. And she went, oh, yeah, his girlfriend's really great. She works for that company over there. And they were both there. And I was like, okay, cool. End of that.
Yes.
Written off.
Yes.
Absolutely the most written off it could possibly be because I'm not that girl. Fast forward to, I want to say mid last year. And I don't know how it happened, but I've started getting on lists to review accommodation. I'm pretty bloody happy about it because
That's
it
a fun
means
list.
I'm getting holidays because I do still do some journalism on the side, but I'm not going to plug where I work for because I don't know, I feel icky about it.
Okay.
But anyway, so I was writing about this thing, but I was posting a lot of pictures because when you get sent somewhere, you need to post photos of where
Yes,
you go as part of the deal. Like you get socials
Give
as well
them
as
their
the story.
due. Yeah.
Exactly. So a few photos of me, a few photos of pretty sunsets,
Living that influencer life.
few photos of me with cocktails. And so I'm sitting by the pool on my second day of being there and a little message pops up from this person. Now, I would not have considered myself friends with Logan, but I have seen him at different work events and like conferences over the years.
And
It's
orbiting
like
satellite.
acquaintances.
Yeah, it's like a hi in the lobby of wherever we are, or like a, you know, like it's one of those, like if I saw them, I'd be like, hey, how you going? And so I was kind of like, oh, hi, how are you? And they were just saying to me, I don't know why I keep saying they. It's definitely a he. I'm just like extra careful about trying to mask who he is. And he was like, oh, so are you like on a holiday for business or pleasure? And I was like, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And what started was just like, we just started talking, and I guess we didn't stop for 3 days.
Very good.
That's always a fun experience,
Yes,
though.
isn't it?
Well,
assuming at this point he wasn't with someone.
So, yes, I had kind of figured out through some social media cues that he was no longer with somebody.
Yes, a little bit of snooping.
I did do a little, like I'm not for Googling or snooping, but I needed to make sure. So I had a little bit of a look, and I also confirmed that with him at some point. I don't know how it came up, but I was,
Also, you were conversing over social media, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, it's the first afternoon, we just like back and forth. And I'm like, here's where I am. How jealous are you? You know, like sending photos of, you know, what I was eating for dinner, because I was sitting down to this like ridiculous, like it would have cost about $200, $300, the food and drink that I ate.
It's brag-worthy.
Just by myself. Like I'm just sitting there photographing everything. And meanwhile, he's sending me photos. I'm like, send me a photo of your dinner. So he sends me this artfully arranged McDonald's setup.
So it's a little fun. It's a little flirty.
But I didn't really know whether it was flirty, because I've been out of the game for a while.
Yeah, right.
And like I've flirted and I've kissed people and I've hooked up and whatever, but I haven't. I was like, I literally called a friend and I was like, is this man flirting with me? I don't know.
As soon as it goes over an evening. So like if you're chatting one day and then you start chatting again the next day,
so
there are intentions.
Okay, so where I went, I think there are intentions, is I was like, okay, well, I'm done with the pool. I'm going to have to go back to my room for a nap before dinner. And then I woke up to a, how was your nap?
Yeah, okay.
And to me, that's like, you know, and then later on I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a bath. And they're like, oh my God, you have a tub. And I was like, look at this tub. And then later on I got a, how was your bath? So obviously they're thinking about me a little bit naked. Okay. But I still wasn't sure, because
out of practice.
I'm me, and I don't believe that people are flirting with me, even when it's really fucking obvious that they are. So yeah, just sending photos back and forth, and you know, it started pissing down with rain where I was, so I was sending it even got to the point where he was getting in the car and he's like, hey, I'm just going out to a friend's house, so I thought I'd send a voice memo. So then it turned to voice memos, and I was even getting messages like, hey, I might be unavailable for about 5 to 10 minutes because I'm doing this thing, but I'll be back. Like it was like we were in a chat room versus just texting. The conversation was continuing the whole night.
Like, don't stress if I don't reply immediately.
I know, which I was like, oh, that's nice and really reassuring. And so then, like that night, it started raining. And so then I sent a voice memo of just lying in the middle of the rainforest with this beautiful rain going, oh my God, listen to this. And it was just like both lying in bed, having a bit of a chat. And then the next morning I got a, how are you this morning? You're going to send me photos of your breakfast, aren't you? And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to send you photos of food. Who will protect you?
Yeah, that's right, people.
So basically the convo went across 3 days.
Yep.
Including I'm going to a party tonight. I might drunk text you. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, oh. And then I didn't get drunk texted, and I was a bit disappointed by it. I was like,
you can't promise drunk text. You can't tease drunk text.
I know. I was like,
deliver.
hey. And so then after a couple of days of chatting, where we just talked about, we narrated what we were doing in our day. I felt like someone was on my little holiday with me. And then I kind of had thought, okay, we'll just probably keep chatting for a while. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to be finished work. I think it was a Saturday. I don't know. He's like, I'm going to be finished work at around midday. Do you want to catch up and have lunch? And I was like, absolutely not. It's 1 hour till lunch and I'm so not ready. Like, absolutely not.
Who do you think I am? Some man who's just finishing work?
No, I'm not ready to see humans yet. I'm barely out of bed. And I was like, no, I've got lunch plans. My lunch plans were become human. But did you want to meet up tonight and hang out. And I was really careful with my language because I wasn't like, let's go on a date, because like I still am not looking for anything serious. And so he was like, yes, that sounds great. And I was like, okay, so what are you feeling? And I left the ball in his court and I was like, do you want to go, are you in a going outy kind of hangout, or are you in a staying in and watching movies kind of hangout? And he was like, staying in and watching movies. And I was like, great, good. That's what I was thinking
it's
too.
a good wavelength
Sounds
to
great.
be on.
Then my flatmate decides she's going to do her annual Christmas bake-a-thon and takes over the entirety of the lounge room kitchen.
Marvelous. Yes, just what you want.
So I
Just what you
text
need.
this guy and I'm like, hey, Logan, listen, my flatmate's just taken over the whole lounge room kitchen and she is not quiet. So I'm just warning you that if you do still want to come over and do the movie night, it's going to be in my bedroom. I'm sorry, this isn't a move. Like,
okay, good. You have to
I have
preface-
a television in my room, but we won't are you
It's
okay
like,
with
it's
that?
not a move unless
Yeah.
you want it to be. It could
But
be a
also, I have aircon in my room and that will be much more comfy.
Yes.
So yeah, all that's fine. I panic and go, holy shit, how do I?
What have I done?
What
I've
do
just
I- what-
invited a
there's
human
a-
being
there's a-
into my
there's
area.
a boy coming over.
What's the protocol?
What do I
Yeah,
do?
dude,
What-
like,
how do I
well,
dress?
There's got
What
to
do
be a
I
committee.
wear?
Google. Just
Do I have
Google it.
nice underwear or do I wear normal underwear just in case?
Yeah,
like what?
that's
Like,
right, yep.
well, because I was like, I don't want him to think like I knew something was going to happen, but I'm also like, but if something does happen, I don't want to be wearing terrible underwear.
And
But
it's
I
your-
also
it's your-
don't want him to feel like I've dressed up because I'm not about that.
And if something does happen, that's your choice, and
Yeah.
you put on the thing that you
Yeah.
wanted to wear. But you don't want him to think that, because
exactly.
what if?
Like, and I was honestly super open to it just being a hang as well. Like, I was like, maybe I've misread things. I'm open to something if it happens. I'm also open to, because making friends as an adult is hard, and I'm open to the fact that even if we just hang out a couple of times, then maybe he'll make a move like in a couple of weeks. Like, I don't know.
Now, while I 100% identify with your stress head justifications for your underwear choice,
I did not go with good underwear.
Tom,
poor choice.
as the token straight man,
Happy to be on board. Hello.
do you judge women on their underwear the first time that you see it?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
So
that was my
No.
inclination.
this is coming from somebody who's made out with somebody before and they have put their hand on my hip, realized that I was wearing like seam-free underwear and gone, oh, so I see you've put on nice underwear for me, and I got all blushy about it. Like, it's a thing.
But
where-
that's him acknowledging, saying like, oh, I get the message. I'm down.
Yeah, I know. But like, yeah. So I ended
Yeah.
up choosing a pair of underwear that were not fancy, but I was just like, I feel good in these, so we're going to go with these. Anyway, so okay, I'm trying. I don't want to go into a huge amount of detail because I've told this story probably 2 other times to 2 other people where I was going big time detail because I wanted help.
Okay.
So basically we start watching movies, and look, I forget how to human for the first 20 minutes that he's there. I talk too fast. I do
That's
a
why you
tour.
put the movie on.
I do a tour of the house that's basically literally us turning in a circle and ending up in my bedroom.
Yep.
I'm just a weirdo. Also, I've never hung out with this person one-on-one before, so I'm also like, hey, cool, we're hanging out, but also I don't really know you. But also I like that you're here. So throughout the night watching various movies, there's definite shuffling closer and closer until we're touching elbows.
A noticeable mood of mayhaps.
And then there's a bit where I kind of, because we're sitting on my bed and I was sitting up too straight and I was like, okay, I'm going to try and slide down a little bit. I way overcorrected and ended up lying completely flat.
Oh no.
And I was like, what? Fucked this. Okay, sorry, I'm getting up. And literally sitting up, I still don't know how he did it. It was real smooth. Like all of a sudden an arm was around me and I was into it, like lying on his chest, like within me trying to sit up.
crafty beggar.
And I was like,
how did he do that?
oh, hey.
The secrets we will never
Yes,
tell.
So I'm lying there going, it's been a while since my head's been on a guy's chest that I'm actually a little bit interested in, like platonic friend hugs, whatevs. But
kind of nice place to be.
so I'm just kind of lying there and
But of course, at this point, the
I'm like, the
line has been-
intention is clear.
Yeah, has been
right?
crossed.
And I was like, okay, good. I wasn't misreading things. Cool. So we're lying there for a little while and I get bored.
Okay.
Look, it's just because, like, I was being very still, but then I was like stroking my thumb on his chest, and then I'm like, we're not a couple, so there's no couple language of physical contact, and I'm a little bit frozen and a little bit not. So I just went, you know what, fuck it, and I kissed him.
Okay.
And it was great.
Good.
The kissing was amazing.
Fantastic.
I got lots of good kissing back, lots of good handsiness back. It was a really fucking nice make-out session. And then things escalated.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of, okay, I'm going to skip over this bit.
Okay.
There was a lot of, so when I kissed him first, I kind of pulled back and I said, is this okay? Because I was aware of the fact that he had broken up with someone I thought about a month earlier.
Okay.
Turns out it was not a month earlier. It was only
no.
a couple of weeks earlier.
Okay. Little sticky.
And it was like a 8 or 9 year relationship. I
Okay.
think. Yeah. Anyway, so lots of kissing, lots of making out, lots of,
Bedtime activities.
I would have been okay just making out. He escalated things, which I was fine with as well. But then, how do I put this? Okay, so I don't want to shame anyone for this because we've talked about this before, and this is not something to be ashamed of because it happens all the time, but there was a little issues with performance on his side, which was totally fine by me. I was like, what can I do to make this better? And boy, did I.
Yes, thank you for not being like, yeah, fuck you. You aren't getting offended or hurt.
No.
Get involved and
And
try and
I
make it better.
only mention that because contextually that was in my head as a maybe he was feeling uncomfortable about that. So basically after the sexy time happens, after he
Has fun.
has his fun, and I not as much fun, but still fun.
Yep.
He goes real quiet.
Mm.
And he goes, I'm really sorry. And I'm thinking he's potentially apologizing about the performance issue. And I was like, oh, it is so fine. Like, I had a great time. This is fine. And then he got real weird and was like, this is going to sound real shit, but I need to leave. I need to sleep in my own bed. And I was like, hey, it's fine. I don't like sleeping next to other people. In my head, I'm like, I didn't ask you to sleep over, but I'm not that asshole. I was just like, at this point in time, I was like, I want to reassure you that everything that just happened is so fine with me.
So you think he's sheepishly bowing out in a way to sort of save a bit of face?
I wondered whether it was the performance issues, and I also wondered whether maybe he was freaking out because by that time I had put 2 and 2 together a little bit after our fun and realised that it was not that long ago that he'd broken up with somebody.
Particularly from an 8 or 9 year relationship.
Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah, I think it was about 9 years. Anyway.
Okay.
And also, like, there was no explicit, like, is this a sleepover or is this just a getting to know you or is this a hang?
There was no discussion on what it was. It was let's hang out. All of a sudden we're making out. All of a sudden we're having a little bit of
And
sex.
so after that happens, there might be a little bit of like, oh, what are your expectations of me here?
So what he did was project what he thought my expectations were onto me.
Yes.
So he was like, I don't want you to think that I came over here just for sex. I don't want you to think that. And I went, hey, if you did or you didn't, both are totally fine with me.
Yeah.
And at this point, again, I was trying to reassure him because he seemed really troubled. And I was like, are you okay? And he said, it's just weird. It's just really weird. And I don't really know. It's been a weird couple of weeks and I don't know where to put this. And I was like, hey, that's okay. I said, do you want to talk about it? I'm really good at listening. And he was like, yeah and no. And I was like, okay. So, and then I thought I'd ask, I was like, so how long ago did you break up? And he's like, oh, a few weeks ago. And I was like, and did you break up with her or did she break up with you? Because I was like, well, maybe she broke up with him and he was going to get real sad about sleeping with somebody else. Yep. And he was like, I broke up with her. And I'm like, and are you regretting that? Is that what this is? He's like, no. That's not it at all. He's like, but I just feel really weird. And I don't want you to think that I came here for just sex. And I was like, hey, look, I said, I was going, how do I communicate with him in a way that says everything that I want to say and also tries to make him feel a little bit better as well. I should have been making myself feel a little bit better because afterwards I lost my shit. But I just went, okay, well, I was open to something happening tonight, but I didn't think that was necessarily why you were coming over. And even if that was, that's totally fine. I enjoyed the chats and the makeouts, and, you know, I had a nice time. I loved the fact that we've been chatting for the last 3 days. He's like, yeah, the talks were good. It's really good that we talked for the last 3 days. And I'm like, yep. But it's fine. You're fine. We're fine. I'm not upset. If you need to go home, and I'll speak to you later. And so he essentially ran away from my house.
Right.
In that moment when you were saying those things,
yes,
were you freaking out and you were putting on a face for him? Or?
No, I didn't freak out till later.
Okay.
And it was more an emotional whiplash thing, right? Because I actually was like, you know what? This is okay. I'm fine with this situation. I just hope that he's okay, was my genuine thoughts in that moment. And so he left, and then I kind of sat in my thoughts for a little while, and then I was like, actually, being jolted out of that suddenly has made me feel a little bit weird and unsteady. And I did think I was totally fine, but then now I'm feeling a little bit destabilized. And also being alone with thoughts, you know, like I didn't care whether he had just used me for sex, because that's essentially what I would have been happy doing otherwise. And if someone's a little bit more interested in me, then let's explore that. But I wasn't like, oh my God, he doesn't like me. Like, I would have been happy just to be like, hey, let's hang out, we're friends, let's hook up, whatever.
Yeah.
So that wasn't it. So what I was trying to do that night then was trying to pinpoint why I felt like shit.
Yeah.
Because I did feel like shit after a while. And after chatting to a friend of mine, I really do think it was just the whiplash of the situation of going from 3 days nonstop talking with somebody to making out, to hooking up, to having them immediately switch off and run.
Well, it's very easy. It's super easy as a human to just become accustomed to that affirmation you're getting from that kind of a new relationship energy, whether it's a friend
and
or
I'd had the
or a
dopamine
romantic
hit
one.
from getting texts, and it went from text, nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing, which would have been fine again had the communication between us been there.
Yep.
So anyway, I go to bed feeling a bit icky about it, like feeling really good about the actual hangout, but then feeling weird about how it ended.
Yes.
And so I go out to lunch the next morning, and I the other thing is that I was feeling bad about the situation, and he's like, and I said, well, do you want to like not tell anybody about this? And I realized I shouldn't have put that on the table, because that's not something that I really wanted to do. And he's like, yeah, no, let's not tell anybody ever. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I told like 2 people, because I needed processing time, and these people have never met this person and never will. They're
Also, that
completely
one
separate circles.
May just be a trigger for me as a gay person, but that's a bit of a red flag for me.
For
It's
someone
like,
not telling.
Let's not tell anyone ever. I'm like, well, okay. That wasn't the deal before we entered in, and that would have
Exactly. And this is why I was cranky at myself for putting that one on the table. But I'm just like, look, if you want to keep I actually said, do you want to keep this on the down low for now?
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, look, let's just not tell anyone. I was like, that's cool, that's fine. And so I talked to one of the 2 people that I told about it at lunch the next day, and they were like, hey, look, one of them was like, absolutely not, fuck this guy off, he's terrible.
Yeah, sure.
That was the guy. The girl was like, no, I think we should give him benefit of the doubt. Like, and honestly, I was on that side. I was like, if this person's if Logan's just come out of a long-term relationship, and I didn't know, if I was the first person that he hooked up with after this relationship, then it speaks to reason that he might be a little bit messed up about that.
Yep.
And that's fine. And I will give him the space to be messed up about that. And, you know, maybe he's embarrassed about the performance issue. Like, and I don't, you know, I will never blame someone for that. I still had a great time regardless. And that's what I was trying to reassure him of the night before.
But there are some contexts in which what he has done is perfectly understandable and not a red flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I initially was like, nope, I'm not going to text him, because my friends were like, no, honestly, like, he was the one who did the weird thing. He should text you today to be like, hey, I'm really sorry about the thing. Let's just be friends. Let's not be friends. The ball's in his court. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I found myself thinking about it all day and going, this is not what I preach on my podcast. This is not what I preach.
Fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone.
And-
All right. So
and
That was running through my head.
Yes. And I had my friends had said, no, absolutely, do not text him. Wait for him to text you. And I was like, you know what? I actually want to check if he's okay. I want to check in.
Yep.
And if that's what I want to do, then that's what I'm going to do. So I texted and I just said, hi, just checking in to see how you are after last night.
So this is the next day that
the
you're
next
texting?
night.
The next
so
night.
this is
24
this
hours.
is 24 hours. And he said, I'm better than last night. And I was like, wow, okay,
Oh.
cool. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, what I wanted to say was that I felt a little bit weird after last night. I know that I reassured you that everything was totally fine last night. And look, most of it was fine, but I did feel a bit of whiplash from the way that it ended. And he responded with, yep, I'm sorry about that. I didn't want you to think I was there for just sex. And I'm like, okay, well, I wanted to let you know that I didn't think it seemed like that, but it's okay if it did. And, you know, that's just what the deal is. So then I left it. I thought, okay, I'm just going to leave it. And if he really didn't just want it to be sex, then he'll contact me.
Yep.
He did not.
Okay.
Well,
That answers the question. And
Yes.
like, okay, well, you're just being intellectually dishonest with yourself, but I've
Yes.
got the message.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And because I contacted him and said everything that I wanted to say in a really calm, collected kind of way, and my male friend was like, I do feel like you sidelined your own feelings in that conversation a little bit, but your communication to him was impeccable. And I'm like, oh, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better about the situation. So then I in that conversation, sorry, and it's important that I say this, in that text conversation, I was like, look, I'm just a really big believer in good communication, because if both people communicate what they want, nobody has to feel like shit. Like that's what I said, those exact words. And I was like, I don't care what the situation is as long as I know what the situation is.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I had been going to ask you if you wanted to hang out and get the lunch that we didn't get, because maybe if we just had a do-over and did it as friends, not in a bedroom, you might feel a little bit more comfortable about the situation. And I got my schedule's really full right now.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, cool, message received. So I completely wrote that off. Felt a lot like I spent probably a good 24 hours feeling so fucking anxious about that situation. And then I was like, hang on a minute. I tell every single person that comes on Ghosts that if they're feeling anxious about a situation, don't wait for someone to text. And honestly, that little bit of anxiety over what happened? What was he thinking? Why did I do this? And there was part of me going, you know, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
You know, like I genuinely was like, should I? And I was going through my head going, no, wait, he escalated it to actually sleeping together. I would have just been okay making out. He was the one who pushed that further. There was consent checking in throughout from both parties. So this was not me. I was genuinely worried when I was thinking about it that I had pushed him further than he wanted to go. But then I realized that all of the escalating actions had come from him.
Yep.
So I left it, but I could still see that he was watching all my stories, and
lingering,
still,
yes.
yeah. And I was like, "What's that about? If he really wants me gone, then why bother checking in?" And then I thought, well, he's probably just scrolling through stories, and mine comes up, whatever. So then, I end up getting quite ill. This was the first time I had COVID in the middle of last year. And so I had COVID.
What fun times they were.
What fun. And of course posted on social media because I had COVID, because that's what we did.
Yes.
We post our tests. We're like, pour me, get a little violin out. And so then it probably would have been about 2 weeks later. I get a, hey, how's COVID? And I'm like,
You left it late. 2
Well,
weeks.
no, he left at the exact time that you need to quarantine.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very true.
I was like,
Very true.
COVID's not real great, thanks. So we had a bit of a stop-start conversation, and I realized that he was, well, I didn't, it was a nice normal conversation that kind of fell back into the rhythm that we'd had when we were talking
Yep.
couple of weeks earlier for the 3 days nonstop conversation. And I kind of finished. It felt like he's like, I guess because you've got COVID, you'll probably be busy on Saturday night. And I'm like, yeah, being sick. And if I'm not sick, I've got plans anyway because I did.
Yeah.
And also it pays to look busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
She is busy. And I said, well, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like, shucks. And I'm like, okay, so you were definitely fishing. And so I said, all right, well, I'm going to take some painkillers and go to bed. And I see the message come through that just says, okay, I hope you feel better. Maybe we'll chat again tomorrow, smiley face.
Yes.
I don't open it.
Yeah,
I just see it come through. I don't open it. Then I go have my shower, come back, and then I see another message pop up on my phone, which I also don't open, that says, and by the way, I'd like to take you up on the offer of that lunch and a hangout if it's still on the table.
Right.
Now, I didn't know where to put that.
No. Why?
So
why
I
would
went to
you?
sleep.
Perfect. To be a fuzzy COVID brain.
Yep. I was just like, I was like, what? Like, he could not have been more clear in my schedule's really full and I can't hang out right now.
Yeah.
And then, so I don't respond for 12 hours. I just don't open it. I'm just like, I can't. I literally like almost throw my phone across the room going, this is not a today brain thing.
Yeah.
So when I open it, I'm like, how do I respond to that? Because I don't want to be like, yeah, cool, sounds great, like amazing, because you've still been a bit of a dick to me the last couple of weeks. You've told me that you didn't want to hook up and got my expectations in one place. When I said that it was totally fine if they were in the other place, I gave you that out and then you didn't speak to me.
Before you tell us what you did,
okay,
I would like to ask you a question.
Okay.
Did you want to pursue something with this guy?
I wouldn't have minded hooking up again.
Okay.
I did not want to date him.
No, that's fine. I was just like, did you want something more to happen?
Yeah, honestly, the hooking up felt nice. The making out was real nice. And I went, you know what? I also kind of wanted to see if we had a round two, if it was better.
Yep.
Or different. I don't know. I was like, I probably shouldn't have a round two because this guy, but then in my brain, I'm like, well, now that I know he's a known quantity, maybe I could hook up with a little more disconnection. Not that I wanted to disconnect. I was like, maybe we can be friends with benefits. I don't know. But clear in all clarity, I still got excited when he messaged me.
Yeah.
But I did not want to date him. I was open to the possibility of hooking up again. But I was
But
also,
you weren't just following the trail that he was leaving.
No,
down.
but I was also fine with being friends.
Yep.
And that is something that I said to him in our message conversation where I was like, I forgot to mention this before, just to loop back onto that big convo where I was talking about communication. I was like, when I asked you to hang out, I meant as just friends. And he went, oh, you just want to be friends. Oh, well, that's fine then. And I'm like, I don't know how many fucking times I said that to you last night and today and this morning. And, you know, like I've given you. So what he had done is he'd done the magic penis syndrome that we talk about, where he had assumed that the hookup meant that I was going to catch feels.
Yes.
And assumed that I was trying to get my claws into him when I had told him 50 million times in 50 million different ways in the course of one conversation that that's not what I wanted and it was fine. He's like, oh, you want to be friends? Oh, that's fine then. Oh, I will talk to you again now. Okay. But then the way that he was messaging me when I was ill, like maybe we'll talk again tomorrow, smiley
same
face.
pattern again.
It's a similar pattern. And so my response to is this still on the table? I'd love to go out to lunch and hang out if it's still on the table. I thought, what is a way that I can respond that is yes, that isn't a thumbs up, but is barely one step above a thumbs up emoji?
Yeah, right.
Because I was like, I'm not gonna be super excited about this because you've been very one word and not super excited. So I just responded with, yeah, cool. No punctuation.
Yep, not bad. Not bad.
I'm going to deduct a couple marks because you are regulating your interaction for his emotions there.
Correct.
Yep.
But I also was being petty because I was like, well, you've made me feel a little bit shit with your one, going from being incredibly loquacious, chatting to one word answers. So this is what you get back.
Points on for pettiness. Go on.
Yes!
I like it. I'm fine.
I 100% agree, but like the pettiness is subtext.
Yes,
and,
right.
and this whole issue, I feel, comes down to misinterpretation of each other's subtexts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But let's continue.
Okay. Interesting that you have that take. So anyway, I get a message, I want to say the next day or maybe the day after, saying, hey, did you want to have another movie night? And I'm like, oh, that's, I know what we did on the first movie night. I don't know what you're asking
round
for.
2 mayhaps.
And then he goes, it won't be the same time as usual. And I'm like, sir, we have done this once.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not
Please
the
see
usual
this.
Just put me down for one of the usual.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah.
please see the
This
schedule.
is not a McDonald's. You can't order the usual. And so obviously I've been debating back and forth, and I had one of the friends going, absolutely not, you need to block this guy. And the other one going, maybe he was just really messed up and sad. And the reason, get the jump them button ready. The reason why he was going to be a little bit later is because he said, I have to go to my ex's house to pick up all of my stuff, and I don't know how long that's going to take.
Good. It's a good line. That's what everyone wants to hear. I would love to hang out with you, but I need to go hang out with my ex.
I need to go get all of my stuff,
I get
so I'm
all
going
the
to run
stuff.
away from her house
And I have
to
no
your house.
earthly idea how long that could take, so it's just be
I
late.
don't understand any context in which that is a good move.
Right?
No, you're
There's
100%.
there's no like, oh,
100%.
I had this extended long relationship and I am putting the final nail in that just before I'm coming to see you.
Yes.
It could just be flashing the 9 years that he's got in the bank, the dating history, and like, hey, I'm reminding you that I held it together with another woman for 9 years. Look at the dating material I am. Is it that at all? Is it reminding
I'll
you?
see that, but I'll take you down the road of like 9 years meant exactly this much to me.
Yes.
Yeah. 9 years meant I'm giving her enough time before I go and fall into another woman's
Yeah.
Yes.
vagina.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm putting a time limit on her.
Yeah.
So no, don't talk about your ex. Basically, fools don't bring up.
I think
fools.
you can.
I absolutely think you can
it's
talk
not your-
about your ex,
yes,
but
you
don't
can.
say
It's not your
I'm going to
go-to.
do a
Yeah.
life-changing thing for somebody, so I'll be over as soon as I've broken this person's heart a little bit more.
Yeah, but also it's like you're talking about your ex as a chore
yes.
before they get to have the reward that is time with you.
Yeah. And like I'm all for having a casual hookup where, you know, like I don't care what you do with your ex because we're not a dating and we're not a thing. But don't. What he just did,
Well, yeah,
don't.
that didn't need to be in your head.
No. And so I didn't, this is one bit where I was not as pleased with my communication because I feel like I wanted to say to him, absolutely no, I will not be your soft place to land. But I just said, no, I think I might still be sick. But the reason why I said absolutely no, and it was a visceral bodily reaction, was I was like, look, if you've broken up with someone, you need to feel those consequences. And I will not allow myself to be a place where you can hide from feelings of something
good for you.
shitty that you've done.
But also don't be an excuse for him to cut that short.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
I was like, you ran away from me. You don't get to run away from her.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And then I finished that up with like, I might still be sick, but that's going to be real hard for you. If you want to talk afterwards, I'm here.
Okay.
And then it got to about 11 o'clock at night. So this had been about 4 in the afternoon.
And there's no messaging when he's with the ex doing whatever he needs to do.
No, so it got to about 11 and I could see that he was online and I was like, I'll just check if he's okay because I'm an idiot.
You got lured in by that. Yeah, I think maybe I will.
I
Wounded
don't want
person.
you to use that
Yes,
word.
We're not going to use that
What
word.
was
Okay.
the thinking? Were you like, did you legitimately want to check on him?
I
Or
did.
were you like,
I wanted to see if he was okay. There was no way that he was coming over my house. I wasn't going to be like, are you done now? Can you come over?
suggesting that, but it was just kind of like,
I was like, I also want, because I genuinely was like, I'm really open to being friends with this person. If we hook up again, great. If we don't, fine.
Okay.
You know? And so I was like, I would like to check on this person to see if they're okay and offer an ear because I know that they've isolated themselves from a few of their friends at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to if he wants to talk to somebody, it was like,
yeah,
if
you're
he
being
wants
good
to
friend Liz.
yeah, if he wants to talk to someone who is not involved in the situation, well, I sort of was involved because we were naked the week before, well, a couple of weeks before. But it was more here's an ear if you want one. And I said, so how are you okay? And I got back, I said, I said, how did you go? And he said, I got my stuff.
Very stoic. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're back to that, are we? And so then I responded with, you okay? And he heart reacted to that. And that was the end of that conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I should have.
That's
Yes.
that for me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you sent this message twice now. I don't need a third time.
Yes. Yes. Well.
Maybe you do, and that's fine.
Yes. Well. Anyway, so I left it maybe 2 days. And then
Can you
thought,
remember your mood at the time, your thoughts? At
I
the
was
time?
anxious.
You're just anxious?
I was like, oh, I had a little bit of this nice thing again, and now it's been taken away again.
And having someone new messaging you, not even in a relationship context, just someone new lighting up your phone just every couple of hours
And it's the hot
is nice.
and cold and the lack of communication, right?
yeah.
It's the fact that someone had been so warm and then so frosty.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't mind. Like, if you want to be like, okay, all we do is hook up and we don't converse, I'd be like, great. As long as you let me know that boundary, that's all we'll do, buddy. You come over, we'll have sex, you fuck off. Or if you want to talk, let's set that boundary. We're friends. We occasionally play games together. We fucking high five after sex. Then you go home. But chat to me about what is happening. And it was the blatant, this isn't just sex, yet I'm going to ignore you. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to come to you. And then I'm going to literally panic so hard about going to pick up all of my stuff from my ex's house that I'm going to say, can I come over after? And think that that is a good idea to do to another woman.
I just want to point out that like what he's doing is definitely like a diet version of love bombing.
Yeah.
Because it is like, here, have all my attention, this lovely repartee that we have. And then as soon as you do something I don't like, I'm going to cut that off.
Yeah.
And you don't get that.
Yeah. Or I'm going to, and I was like, maybe he's just so stuck in his head that he just is spiraling every time. He's like, because he's been in such a long relationship, he's just spiraling. He goes, yes, I'll do the thing. And then he freaks out and like fight or flight runs away. And I'm like, you know what? And there was part of me that was like, nope, I'm done. And the other part of me was like, look, if he's just having a really shit time, then I'm happy to be the friend who's still like, just making sure you're not going insane a little bit later. So I left it a couple of days after I got my stuff, heart react.
Yep.
And then I was like, cool. So testing negative for COVID. When did you want to hang out? Because the last time we spoke, he asked me to hang out.
Yes.
Twice.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, my schedule's really busy.
This
and filling
schedule
up
of
right
his,
now.
I tell you, sort your schedule out.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So that was 100% that.
Okay,
that
good.
Was
Thank you.
it.
Well done.
That was it.
Yep.
Until.
I'm so sorry, everybody. Everyone was getting up from their chairs and stretching and pumping the air. We did it. We got through our story. Sorry, everybody.
Until a couple of weeks after that.
A couple of weeks go by. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've moved on? Or you've
So moved
forgotten
on. Like
things?
I've gone, you know what? If I actually said to my friend, I was like, do you know what? I am incredibly proud of the way that I handled that entire thing, because when he was weirded out immediately after, I was like, do you want to talk about it? Can I help? Everything's okay. We're fine. You don't need to worry about me. Please get better.
Yep.
Help yourself.
Emotionally mature, resilient, and caring.
And explaining everything that I wanted out of the situation and trying to figure out what he wanted. Then when I contacted him the next day, I'm like, hey, look, I just wanted to figure out where your head was at, because I'm a believer in big communication. And if we just talk this out, neither of us has to feel like shit about anything, because I don't want you to feel like shit and I don't want to feel like shit either. And, you know, even when he was blatantly a bit shit and going, I'm going to come over to your house after I see my ex, I was like, no, but if you would like to talk about it afterwards, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
So I was quite proud of how I handled it. So anyway, I ended up having a drinks night with a bunch of friends where we ended up, as we do, swapping shitty relationship hookup stories.
Very good.
And a girl there was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We did this, we did that. And then as soon as after we hooked up, he freaked out. He got real weird. And he left. And I was like, oh my God, that happened to me too. And then they're like, do you want to tell that story? And I was like, no. No, I don't.
No, thank you.
No, I don't want to tell that
thank you.
story. No mentioning of names. And then later on that night, somebody else was like, oh my God. So the guy that Wendy was talking about, not her real name.
Okay, thank you.
The guy that Wendy was talking about. So then this is another thing that happened with him. And I was like, oh, fuck, you've told me that story before, and I know that story is about Logan, which means that story is also
about Logan.
About Logan. And I died a little bit inside.
Yes.
Because I also then found out that he had broken up with his ex in a less than kind way, which I'm not going to go into details of, but I was a bit like, oh, that's awful.
Not the person that I thought he was.
Yeah. Absolutely not the person I thought he was.
Right.
Which is a shame because I actually did think he was quite a nice person. He still might be a nice person, just at a really bad time in his life.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep, that's a possibility.
And so I just felt awful about it because I realized that with the timeline, that what happened with Wendy must have happened pretty much around the same time as what happened with me.
Yeah.
A little overlap.
And then I was like, is this an MO? Is this that he hooks up and then freaks out so that the women end up consoling him and trying to make him feel better? Or like, what the fuck? Because, and I'm just sitting there going, fuck, do I tell any of these people what happened? I said that I wouldn't, but now that I know that it's not just the one-off mistake that he made it out to be with me, I'm not quite so sympathetic as I was before. So I ended up contacting Wendy and going, hey, I just wondered if this was Logan that you were talking about because I had a very similar situation. And I kind of wanted to know if he was okay. Like, is he getting therapy? And B, I wanted to work out the timeline of things because
you're an investigative journalist.
Because I'm an investigative journalist, and because also if he's telling me that he didn't want to hook up for just sex, then he surely wouldn't be pursuing another girl for just sex at exactly the same time, would he?
Yeah.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, of course he would, because it was a lie. It's
So there was probably about a week and a half between me. I was first, and then Wendy. And then about 3 days after Wendy was when he popped back into my DMs.
Right. Yep.
And I soon find out that apparently, and this is hearsay.
Okay.
So I heard from Wendy that he'd actually, when he'd broken up with his ex, jumped into the DMs of about 10 people.
Okay.
Very good.
Or as one of the people at that gathering said, every single woman that he knew, which made me feel real good about being the one that fell for it.
Yes, I can
One
imagine.
of two.
It's all right.
At least. We don't know how many
Here's the
others fell
thing.
for
And this
it.
is allegedly
He was
anyway.
sober with me, but apparently was shit-faced with Wendy. So that was a drunken hookup versus. But anyway, I felt pretty crap about myself, to
Yes,
be
I can
brutally
imagine.
honest. After and I was trying again to put my finger on why I felt like crap because I didn't want to date this man. I would have enjoyed being friends with him if he had been a nice person. I would not have minded hooking up again. I would not have minded not hooking up again. But this whole situation made me feel really awful and queasy. And I think it's because, again, it's the dishonesty and the communication.
Yep.
So if he had been like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure things out now that I'm single, so I don't really want anything serious, but if you're interested in hanging out and hooking up and, like non-exclusively, I would have been like, fine, high five. Sounds great.
Absolutely. We'll roll this into lessons learned, and this will be one of my lessons learned because you're right, Liz. It's an unfortunate collection of little moments, and you could pick a lot. What did we learn from any section of your story? And you're right. Saying versus doing. Just because you say one can defend themselves. I never acted wrongly because I said this and that's what happened. No, but you said these things, but you acted and behaved in this manner, and that's the lie. That's the subterfuge. That's where you fell short.
And I was like, well, maybe he's going, well, because she said she didn't want anything serious, my behavior's justified. I'm like, okay, well then communicate to me that you don't either. And I think one of my lessons learned that I'd like to put out there to our whole audience is having or wanting to have casual sex with someone does not make you a bad person if that is what you communicate. So if you're a guy or if you're anyone, if you're sleeping with somebody and you're like, oh no, I don't want them to think I'm a bad person, maybe check if they're just sleeping with you as well, because they won't think you're a bad person if you're both doing the thing.
Dear listeners, it's 2023. You no longer need to trick people into casual sex.
No.
Yes.
You can just ask for it.
And don't put emotion on the person you're having casual sex with.
Yeah, you don't need to treat me like shit because you think I might catch feelings. I've told you I'm not.
Yeah, at the beginning they would have said, yeah, here for casual sex, let's do the casual sex. Down the line, it may happen, but don't ruin the casual sex you're having now by putting this
just
fear on it.
say, hey, I feel a bit weird about this. It's probably going to be a one and done if that's okay. And I would have been like, fine. Like I was reassuring him going, no matter what the situation that brought you here, it is fine that you're here.
I think that would be, that's going to be my lesson learned / advice that taking away from this is like, if you are uncomfortable with the way that you're being communicated with, you break the pattern, call them out, and say that. And I'm going to give you a B+. You did that 2 out of the 3 times that you communicated with this guy.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think that's...
Can you put it up to an A-?
I'm going to put it up to an A- because, yes.
She doesn't get to go to summer camp if she doesn't get straight A's. Her mum's going to be pissed. I'm going to sweep in with another little lessons learned, and it is kudos to you, Liz. Along the journey, at some point in your story, you reflected and you said, was it me? You asked, was I the problem in this situation? You turned it on, the spotlight on yourself and went, no, I'm in the clear, but you still asked, was it me? You self reflected inward, and that's a good thing for a lot of people to do. In this interaction, something went wrong. Was it me? Or so I think that's a good thing. Self explanation, accountability.
I would suggest that the anxiety that you felt was less than what you communicated here, or no, that was more than what you communicated here.
I felt for about a week. I felt pretty crap about it. And I felt a bit crap about myself because it had been a little bit of a while since I'd hooked up with someone. So I was like, oh, maybe they just thought I was crap, or maybe, like.
But it's a really good example of being able to look back at you having done the work and communicating what you want and what you needed effectively, and going like, no, I was honest. He's doing this, that's on him. And
honestly, that second going back and going, like, how are you? Are you okay? Once I explained what I was feeling in a way that was like, I needed to let you know that I feel like this. I need you to know that you haven't done anything wrong. It's a weird situation. End of.
Yep.
The little cortisol tightness in my chest went away.
Yep.
And I still felt a little bit sad about it.
Yeah.
But waiting for somebody to text me to figure out what the fuck went wrong with the situation drove me a little bit insane.
Yep.
And I was like, Elizabeth, it only took me 24 hours, but I was like, Elizabeth, you preach that people should text, communicate. And so that's what I did. There was no part of the thought process that I didn't communicate to him, but it wasn't one of those, I'm sending you a novel about all of the things that I'm thinking. It was, I basically dot pointed in my head what I was feeling, sent that on to him in the course of maybe 150 words.
Yep.
Max over the whole conversation.
And I think I speak for all of you when you say, like, you're happy to be the excuse that a listener uses to send that message to someone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm sorry I'm sending this, but Liz would want me to.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be like, Liz would be thinking, look, if you have something to say and you need to communicate it and you're upset that someone isn't communicating, say your piece, and if they don't answer, that's also an answer.
Because it's never worth tearing yourself apart with anxiety and woe.
Because uncertainty is always worse than a no.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always.
And when they tell you, believe them.
Hear them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when they say, my schedule's real busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one thing that he did that annoyed me, is that I said my piece several times and he didn't believe me.
Yeah.
He still thought...
Yes. He was still playing the games.
He was still playing the games. And I was like, hello, you've come across the rare person who is 100% not playing games with you. Hear what I'm saying. He was like, no, I'm still not going to hear what you're saying. I'm still going to assume that you want more than just friends. Yeah.
Well,
so that was my little story.
Deep breath, Elizabeth. I think for the vast majority of that awkward little roller coaster of a tale, that you did good things. You communicated how you wanted to communicate.
I did.
You did the things that you wanted to do. The story as a unit of two people, calamity. Like there's chips and all
and it was
over it.
Such a it really was whiplash for me. I was like, ooh, flirting. Ooh, this is great. 3 days of nonstop conversation, sex, nothing. Like, I was just like, I just felt like the rug had been ripped out from underneath me. I was like, at least talk to me like we're friends if you didn't want me to think you were here for just sex. Anyway, yeah.
But that's the thing, like, you will never know the context from the other person if they don't tell it to you. And so, like, this could have been a success for him, in that he got one night of sex and that's all he needed. Or it could have been like he was actually going through something but didn't want to accept any help.
Yeah.
But I think what we did and what we focused on was your presentation of how you felt and how you communicated. And I think that's something that you can be proud of, and we don't need to think about him anymore.
No, we're
I
not.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
We're absolutely not.
We'll just wrap that up. So thank you, everybody at home. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sitting in the hot seat today. My wonderful co-host and producer, Zane C. Weber, for coming on the microphone. Thank you both for a wonderful episode. You're intelligent, wonderful insights. It's a pleasure sitting opposite you. And to the rest of you listening, dear readers, rate and review this little show. Elizabeth just did a very hard thing being the guest on her own podcast. So
It's rough. And can I just point out, didn't fuck up a name
Not
once.
Not even one.
Not even once.
Not an edit. So to thank Elizabeth for coming on and doing the hard work, I'm just going to ask that you take 1 second to rate or review the show, share it to someone else. Come on, give back. Elizabeth just gave to you. Join us on Facebook. We got a little self-run community there. Ghosts of Ghosts of Boyfriends Past group therapy.
Yes.
Former guests of the show pop up there. Like-minded people ask questions, give feedback, give advice. That's it.
Yeah, we're spent. I just want to say, I do acknowledge how difficult it is to come on here and tell a story. I was actually quite nervous mostly because I'm still, even though this person was not very nice to me, I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt in a way that they might be just going through something that's absolutely messed up for them. Or it could be their MO where they absolutely go around, have sex with people and then freak the fuck out and run away so that you'll be consoling them rather than them having to say, I'm sorry, I'm a dick. I don't know. But the point is, I don't need to know because I said everything I needed to say. Right. But we can help you tell your story if you don't want to put your voice to it. If you want to write in, yes, I will 100% try and do your story the most dramatic justice.
Well, you can slide you in under the guise of anonymity as well. We don't need to name and shame you. Don't worry.
We can come up. We've had people come on with fake names. We've had people write their stories in. Everything above. But one thing I want to leave you with, and thank you, Zane, for being on mic for this episode.
You're very welcome.
Whenever you are having issues with somebody, as long as you make sure that you have communicated everything that you need to, that's absolutely all you can do. So communicate well.